Our scripture meditation for this evening is Job chapter 42 and verse 5. Again, Job chapter 42 and verse 5. In the year 2017, Alicia Beth Moore, known professionally as the artist Pink, stirred up controversy about her style of parenting. Pink said that her children would be raised gender neutral and not limited by labels. According to her, this thought process does not deny gender identity, but it frees a child to not be hindered by labels. Emily Gaudet of Newsweek magazine captured Pink's ideology in a December 14, 2017 article. It says, as Pink described it, Willow, and that's her daughter, told her once that she was going to grow up and marry a woman from Africa. Pink simply said, "Great, can you teach me how to make African food?" And the same article, Pink's quoted statement reads, "I was in a school and the bathroom outside the kindergarten said, gender neutral, anybody." And it was a drawing of many different shapes. Pink explained to the people, "I took a picture of it and I wrote progress. I thought that was awesome. I love that kids are having this conversation." The artist Pink has used her fame to encourage and promote a demonic view on sexuality. Her dangerous views further the LGBTQ agenda. Her fame helps to influence this to countless numbers of people. This past week, Pink revealed on Instagram that she and 3-year-old son Jameson both dealt with the coronavirus. In describing her painful and grueling ordeal, she said, "There were many nights when I've cried, and I've never prayed more in my life." Thank God both mother and son have recovered from this deadly virus. Hopefully neither her husband or daughter will contract the disease. Given Pink's previous comments about gender neutrality in parenting, you cannot help but to wonder what her relationship with God was like prior to being stricken with the coronavirus. Her parenting philosophy fails to indicate a real knowledge of God as revealed in His Word. Her true relationship with Him is purely a matter of speculation. What's most interesting is her admission that she never prayed more in her life. That means either she had some acknowledgement of God prior to the virus and resorted to her existing belief in Him, or the dreaded thought of death made her hope for a God and His mercy. Which is true is not known by me. The story of Pink stands out because it seemingly answers a question that so many have about human suffering, natural disasters, and the struggles of life. Everyone wants to know two things. Why do bad things happen? And why does a loving God permit such things? Those questions have been and will be debated by philosophers, historians, theologians, and everyday people until Jesus returns. In trying to understand these questions, believers must always remember an essential purpose in the mind of God. He seeks to reveal Himself to us and draw us into an eternal fellowship with Him. Therefore, you and I may not understand every specific thing He does or permits to happen, but we can be sure that the Lord's provisions and permissiveness ultimately accomplishes His greater will. Sometimes human suffering, devastating natural disasters, and our individual personal struggles cause us to look to God unlike anything else. We deem those experiences to be bad. They do not meet our personal standards of idealism. Realistically, being burdened, crushed, perplexed, overwhelmed, or frustrated can position us to think beyond ourselves and look to our Creator. When Pink was formulating her ideology about parenting, it is obvious that she did not look to God. When she was stricken with a deadly illness, it is interesting that she prayed like she never prayed before. I want you to consider the example of Job chapter 42 and verse 5. It best summarizes Job's extensive experiences with personal loss and suffering that most of us cannot come remotely close to experiencing. Like us, Job wanted to question God. He sought answers, explanations, and perhaps justifications as to why the Lord allowed afflictions. The Lord promised to answer Job's questions when Job answered his. After the Lord baffled Job with the mysteries of creation and showed him the inferiority of man's limited knowledge in light of God's infinite wisdom, Job came to a humble realization. The verse says, "I have heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you." This verse should not be interpreted as a literal ability to see God. It's language that means that Job came to love, appreciate, respect, and value God in a deeper and more meaningful way. Job's statement should be understood from the perspective of one whose heightened reverence for God came as a result of a lowered estimation of himself. We are only significant to the extent that God deems us significant. Job's life experiences, though tragic, helped to define his faith, trust, and submission to God. Just as important, he learned that God owes no answers to any mere man. Instead, Job and you and I must accept God's allowance of afflictions with the same confidence in his sovereignty as we accept his blessings. In consideration of Job, we gain an important understanding of why God allows things that we do not desire. Through the pain, problems, and perplexities, he gets our attention. He tests our faith, builds our trust, and deepens the fellowship between us and him. Some may never amend their ways. Sin will surely continue to exist on this side of time. The Lord, however, uses suffering, disasters, and struggles to get our attention as a means of exhausting every effort to get us to see him so that we are without excuse in the day of judgment. When we consider the foolish thinking of Pink, it certainly is interesting how she promoted Satan's viewpoint on gender identity, only to pray to God like never before when afflicted with illness. Could Job and even Pink's sufferings teach us that God allows these things so that we can come to our senses? Before we criticize Pink too much or analyze Job too long, how many foolish thoughts, how much immature behavior, how many less than godly characteristics may be God trying to draw our attention to in hopes of amending our ways? Whether God directly sent the coronavirus or chose not to stop it, could it be him saying to us, straighten up before it's eternally too late? May God bless you to use this time that you have to see him in a way that is greater, deeper, and more meaningful than ever before. Tune in tomorrow night and every night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time for another installment of A Few Minutes with the Minister with Words from the Master.